It's a great pleasure for me to be able to introduce Nyarko. I'm not going to give you a very long introduction, but you will know of him. There is lots of detail on the app, but he's a professor of economics at NYU. He spends his time in New York, but also in Abu Dhabi on their campus there. He's also the director of the NYU Africa House and director of, I think, CTED, the Center for Technology Economic Development. Thank you, and Economic Development. And so it's a great pleasure. And otherwise, I would simply say, in the classic Ghanaian style, all protocols observed. And then I will just invite him here to give the keynote. He'll speak for about 45 minutes or something. And hopefully there's plenty of time for Q&A. And as usual, we'll need to close at the right time because they will expect us for lunch at the exact time. But anyway, please join me in welcoming Yao. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan, for the invitation. Big shout out to Claire and Rose. Great work handling all the logistics. And I thank CSAE for 40 years of really great work, okay? Stefan, really impressive stuff you guys are doing. One of the largest meetings related to Africa, combining policy work with very, very high level economics. So I want to thank you for that. I'm here at Oxford, and I'm ashamed to say this is the very first time I've been in Oxford. I'm a citizen of Ghana, and as many of you know, and especially those who are my age, the British Empire, very, very important, okay? I went to a school called Achimota. Achimota used to be the Prince of Wales College, okay? How much more British can it get, right? It was split, so high school I went to Achimota, and it was split also into a university, University of Ghana, okay? So, you know, Prince of Wales, my high school, and my university, all in one. Just to continue the Oxford stories, from the University of Ghana, I applied to Cornell University for my PhD. And I eventually got in. It wasn't easy. You know, they had to pay for everything, including, you know, air travel and all that. It was a bad time in Ghana, and my parents didn't have the money for it. And when I got there, some of you may know Ken Burdett, search theorist. He says, hey, you, come here. I just want to admit to you that I was one of the guys who didn't want you to come to Cornell. And I'm saying, okay, why? And his argument was that anybody worth their salt, after high school, you go to Oxford. You don't go to the University of Ghana, okay? And so he was trying to say that because I didn't go to Oxford, maybe I wasn't of high enough quality. So my coming here and being able to talk to you, maybe it's some kind of recognition. Finally, I've made it or something. I don't know. Also praising Stefan again. Stefan, you said something very important when you were giving the talk. I think it was over the drinks yesterday. And this is how, you know, sort of this is a moment when we can actually do comfortably research in Africa, on Africa. He was telling stories of many years ago, he would try and publish on Africa, and it was just impossible. So those who have made it possible to now publish on Africa, on African things, thank you. I see Dean Carlin here as well. He's been very big on that. So Stefan, Dean, and everybody else, thank you for all of that. Let me add to that story, and congratulations, and maybe that fits a little bit with what I'm going to say today. When I finished Cornell, I got my PhD. I was an economic theorist. I was working in growth theory, you know, CT plus XT equals YT, and the dynamics of that. And I really believed it had something to do with development and the flow of economic development. That was what I had in my heart. I also told myself that Africa needs theorists. Africa needs people who are going to go into the fundamentals of economics. We can't all just be doing something called policy, which is after everybody else has done the economics, we just are the translators, okay? So anyway, that was my view. I show up in New York University, and I see a professor who I had really admired. You all know Robert Tudaro. He's one of the older development economists. And he calls me up and literally says the following to me: "Why is an African like you doing economic theory?" I was a junior professor there, okay? So a senior professor telling me that was kind of, it was hard, okay? Thank goodness I didn't ignore that person, kept going. Today you're gonna see some fruits of economic theory, okay? I'm gonna be telling you a lot of work that is inspired by economic theory. So again, I'm going back to what Stefan said yesterday. Those of you who are working in economics, please, do theory, do the fundamentals, go behind things, okay? I think it's a disservice to Africa, African economies, African development, if we are restricted only to policy, okay? In the olden days of the African Economic Research Consortium, I can tell you there was an anti-theory bias. You put a paper there, what are the policy implications, okay? Not good, all right? So again, I'm going out on a little bit of a limb here and just saying, you know, do good work, all of you who are younger. And as I hope I will tell you in my story here, there's a lot of policy work that will come out of it. Everything I'm going to be doing that you will see on the slides. In fact, one of the things you'll see on these slides are very few equations. I don't think there'll be a single equation there, okay? But I'm an economic theorist, all right? I could bedazzle you with equations if I wanted to, all right? But I do think those equations are important. So the younger folks, those of you who are thinking of going into the academy, I encourage you, please go there, okay? There is life after doing academic work, okay? Or theory work. So let me pull this out. Where did this thing go? Okay. I'm going to be talking about technology, and we're at Oxford, so I have to tell yet more Oxford stories, okay? So another Oxford person introduced this, okay? The Ghanaians probably know what this is, called a Ghana card, okay? All right, so Baumia, Vice President Baumia from a little while ago, got his master's degree here at Oxford, and he's somebody who really believes in technology. If you get the technology right, you can use that as an instrument for economic development. Everything I'm going to be doing in my talk today is all about technology, one way or the other. This is the Ghana card. Every Ghanaian now has one. You use it for your banking. You can even use it for travel, okay? One day you can use this instead of your passport. So folks at Oxford, you trained him very, very well, and he's doing a great job. So this is partly in honor of Baumia. Ghanaians, when you see Baumia, tell him that I mentioned his name here, okay? All right. So let's go. How do we work this? Okay, so again, big congratulations to CSAE. Great job over the past 40 years. Amazing work, Stefan. I salute you, okay? All right, so I'm going to be telling you work that we've been doing in the general space of economic development and Africa primarily. Let me look at my clock. So you say about, I should end at about maybe 5 past the hour, something like that. Okay. So first, let me thank my donors. International Growth Center has been very, very supportive. Anonymous donors, these are US companies who don't want to be mentioned in case I do something really, really bad and it affects their reputation. The University Blockchain Research Initiative, I'll tell you why, this is funded by Ripple, the company. And then New York University in New York and in Abu Dhabi, who have been extremely generous in the research that I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to be talking about technology and economic development. I'm going to be going really fast. Stop me if anybody well, I was told to wait until the end. Normally I would say speak up, but they say I should wait to the end, right? It's easier like that. Easier like that, okay. So let me go through very quickly, and at the end you can come back and ask me questions on detail, okay? So research questions, okay? Africa. As I will show you, vast savanna area, flat, extremely great potential. I'll be focusing on the West African breadbasket, Ghana in particular. We just had the African continental free trade area agreements, and large young population, a lot of potential, okay? Excitement. How do we tap into that? My answer is going to all be about technology. I'm going to be focusing a lot on economics. And as I said, or as I said before, a lot of it will have at its background economic theory, okay? All right. P.T. Bauer, unfortunately, is not from Oxford. It's from your competition, Cambridge and London School of Economics. But he wrote in the 50s about West Africa. And if you read his books in the 50s, it just shows you the potential he found in the West African trader, the West African entrepreneur, the West African business person, okay? Very, very dynamic. The difference between Nigeria and Ghana, those of you who are around there, it's a huge distance. People would walk. People would take several cars or forms of transport to come in just to do their business. So this is a quote about somebody in Nigeria going to the Gold Coast, the former name of Ghana, working on groundnuts, cattle, anything to make money, okay? So these are exceptionally entrepreneurial people. It is not the sort of story, I always say anytime I go on a plane and, you know, Emirates Airlines wants to give money to somebody, there's always a picture of an African. We're sort of like the poster child of aid and things not going well. And yet, the African entrepreneur, the African business people, when I go into the village, is extremely entrepreneurial, okay? A complete disconnect from the images you see in the Western world, if you will, okay? All right. This is something about maize production in Ghana going up. More maize, and you'll find out why I'm focusing on maize in a second. African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, as I showed before, the signing of it. This is Africa. This is the area of Africa my theory will apply to. Just in case you think it's a small area, this is Africa again, okay? Africa ain't small, all right? It's a very large continent, and since I've said so many good things about Britain, can I say one maybe negative thing? The Brits invented the map that we use today, and it was designed in a particular way to make Britain look as big and central as possible and Africa to be as small as possible. The geographers and mathematicians here will bear me out, right? Okay, Africa is bigger than our maps perceive them to be. All right, so the area we're talking about is essentially the area of continental United States. Okay, so you're talking about Africa, and as soon as you mention Africa, what are the things people talk about? So again, my talk is going to be about these, essentially these 5 things. I'm going to go through them. Behind them are papers, some of them very theoretical papers. There's going to be a search model inside one of them. But at the end of the day, I'll try and say that they are answering high-level policy questions. Okay? All right. So what are the concerns when you talk about Africa? And those Africans who are my age went through school. I went through the university many, many, many years ago. And we love to complain, okay? This is bad. Corruption is bad. If only we had better leaders. If only they did the roads right. If only we could get our electricity right. And so after a while, I get sick and tired of talking to my classmates about things that are not working. So I made a resolution. I will try to stop complaining about Africa, okay? I'm just going to go forward with blinders on, note what the issues are, and see how we can solve them, okay? So a lot of my research is about finding issues and finding ways we can use economics with the aid of technology to solve them, okay? So you talk about Africa, what are some of the things they mention? Land rights. They're not good enough property rights, and therefore we don't have economic development. We don't have good markets. Our markets are still bilateral markets, and therefore we don't have good economic development. Capital is a bad thing. It's something that's lacking, okay? And because of the lack of capital, you don't have economic development. We don't have all of them working together, in particular warehouses. I'll say something about that. And of course, there's going to be a mention of climate change, it being a problem. I'll show you some literature on that, one particular paper. And then I'll try and tell you some things that with others we're trying to solve, okay? So in a sense, this is the talk. I have about 15 minutes more or so. Bit more than that, okay, all right? So here we go. I'm gonna try not to complain. I'm gonna try and tell you, here are solutions, okay? I'm gonna be going very, very quickly. Friends tell me, and I think it's happened before, I am a shanty. When I get really, really, really excited, I begin speaking in tree, okay? So if you don't understand anything, raise your hand or make a funny face and I'll try and say it again. Maybe I'm just speaking tree, okay? All right, so let's go. This talk, as I said, I'll try not to complain. I'll tell you the things we've tried to do. Land is a problem. We have gone in a particular area. We have set up a land secretariat, okay? We've digitized all the land holdings in this area. The study area that we're involved in is 2% of the land mass of Ghana. It is not trivial, okay? But I consider it a pilot. Hopefully, if the things we're doing works out, we can expand it to that Guinea savanna, okay? But at least we've done it in a not necessarily negligible part of Ghana. Markets are an issue. One of the things I'm really proud of is, and as I will show you, I actually, through the research we had done, we had discovered that it's important to have a commodity exchange. So one of the highlights of my career, if you will, went to the Ghana government, gave a big speech like I'm giving right now, with a whole lot more equations to the ministers, okay? And we got the Ghana Commodities Exchange running, all right? So that's one of the things I'm very, very happy about. We're going to be talking about capital. I'll explain to you how I got to the issue of capital and what we're doing about it. And again, it's going to be technology-based. We're actually talking to some banks right now to scale up what we've been able to find, okay? I'll tell you about warehouses and how all of this combines in a virtuous trio. I'll tell you about climate change, and I'll tell you about some work that we're doing with a group called Aim for Scale. NYU Abu Dhabi is the secretariat of that, and how we're trying to deal with weather issues. And then I may go back and talk a little bit more about technology, okay? So that's what I intend to do. So let's do it. Again, I repeat what I said earlier on. There is space for younger colleagues doing economic theory. You can apply all of that to real world practice. Sometimes I see junior people say, I don't want to go into economics. It's too academic. It's too theoretical. When I started off my career, I don't think it gets any more theoretical than the papers I was writing straight out of the PhD, okay? But I'll try and convince you that those things have had an impact in the policy world, all right? Cool. Here we go. This is Africa, this is Ghana, and the little yellow dot there is our study area. This is Ghana again. The yellow part is the study area is 2% of the landmass of Ghana. The orange part is a forest reserve, which when added becomes 3% of the landmass of Ghana. The great thing is that all of this land belongs to a chief, okay? So Ghana, at independence, kept its traditional chieftaincy system. So about a decade ago, we had a new chief in this area. I started talking to the chief, maybe talking too fast to him about my economics, and he just said, hey, Yao, just go do the stuff you said you want to do, okay? So he gave me free license, and essentially all of the land under that chief became land that we could work in as our study area. And again, the yellow is 2% of the landmass of Ghana. We can work there, we can give property rights there, etc. The orange, 1%, it currently belongs to the government as a forest reserve, okay? Cool. The center of this area is a town called Kumu. One of the first things we did through some grants we were able to get, I decided I do not want to be the kind of economist who stays in New York, gets themselves down into Ghana, does a research project in some part of Ghana, and then goes back, okay? I wanted to try a different model. That model is very good, okay? Under the constraints that faculty have, that's the way to go. I just wanted to try something different. What if I locate myself not in Accra, not in Kumasi, the big towns, but in the villages, in the bush, close to the farmers, okay? So I set up shop there completely. We got some research funding. This area used to be elephant grass. We cut it all down. It's inside a large boarding school. The boarding school is over here. The empty land is over there. And we just put up something. You guys are seeing this because it was so hard to do, to put up a building in the middle of Africa, so you get to see it all, okay? This is the building. I'm feeling tired just looking at it, you know? All right. So that's what we did. So action item number 1 is we set ourselves in the villages, okay? Where the farmers are. You'll see some pictures of the farmers. These are the poorest of the poor. Mud huts, straw tops, etc., okay? All right. So first we went there, and the first thing we did was to set up a land secretariat. Paul Roma was my colleague at NYU at that time. He was big into charter cities. We were thinking, what if we do a charter kingdom, okay? There's a big chief, and what if we get some rules and regulations, digitization, etc. That was the motivation of that. This is the land. There is no reason why Ghana should not be a net exporter of grains. None, okay? It's a failure of economics and a failure of technology. Just beautiful land, empty, okay? Lots of water. This is one of our farmers. All pictures you see here are people who we work with. I didn't go on the internet and get stock images, okay? These are real people. I can tell you their names, all right? So the first thing we did was, today is very easy, but a decade ago was kind of hard. Create an app so that you can give a phone to a farmer, tell the farmer to walk around his or her boundary, and it gets collected. Simple idea, right? Okay, so that's what we did. So here's one such farmer. We set up a land secretariat with all of these maps. Here are some farms. We color-coded them by the crop grown within the farm. This is the land secretariat we created. Having some conversations, showing up people's farms, having conversations, and Stefan, I might go a little bit over. I hope that's okay. All right. So much fun stuff to do here, okay? So, on this part, 2 things I want to say. One, I want to brag about something, okay? Every now and then, so the land secretariat is in charge of demarcating all lands, recording all the land leases, and if there's a question, a problem between 2 people who are disputing their land, they come to our office. Sometimes we get people coming in, and one person is about to literally kill another. The night before, they were in the police station. Police said, go to this office and they'll resolve it. These guys are angry, really angry, about to fight and kill each other. We go into this particular room, and on a board, we just show them, this is your land here because we digitized it, and here is your land. The one guy who was about to kill the other guy then realizes what he thought his land was actually a little bit over here. Same amount of area, but shifted a little bit. They just got it wrong. So here's a guy who was about to kill somebody else. They come to our office, and this guy, one guy, you see him like the head goes down. Shame, okay? And we just resolved it. The guy's all of a sudden quiet because he has his land, same area, just that he got it wrong. He just thought one thing, and the truth was something else, okay? So I like to brag that I actually saved some lives in Ghana. How about that, okay? Not bad, huh? All right. The other thing, too, I want to say, and maybe a bigger picture will come out, there's a whole big literature in economics about the value of property rights, okay? I think property rights are important, but not as important as a lot of the literature says. I'm willing to bet that if an RCT was done in this particular area, you would not find any effect, okay? So I'm going out on a limb. I haven't done that RCT. I don't think it's that fashionable yet. I know some journals allow it. to do an RCT to prove something doesn't have impact, okay? One day we'll get to that stage where more and more of it, but you guys can quiz me on that afterwards, okay? All right, let's keep going. So this is the Land Secretariat thing. Number 2, markets, all right? So the issue with markets is we don't have great markets in Africa. The markets are typically bilateral trades. The traders live in the central areas, the regional capital, a big town. They go to the farms. The farmers are sitting on their farms. They negotiate with the traders. They don't quite know what the prices are. So we have, and I'll show you later on, an empirical paper which appeared in the Journal of Development Economics, which gives all of the theory behind that. That was an RCT, okay? It took quite a while to do it, but it's all there. Farmers don't know the prices. If you give them price information on price alerts, you can increase their bargaining power, okay? So that's the state of affairs. And so what we said was, why not get a commodity exchange, okay? All right. So there's the bilaterals, the existing. And at this point, I'm just going to go very quickly through it, show you some pretty pictures. And in this, all of this, there's a big literature on markets and trading, etc. So our paper follows that line. A lot of search theory, okay, of traders in big places going out to search for traders who are spatially dispersed. In the interest of time, I'll spare you a lot of these details. Everything is in the paper. Africa is full of bilateral trades. One of the things that happened at independence, when African countries got their independence from this country, in the Ghana in 1957, I don't know if there are any Nigerians here, but Ghanaians like to brag about the fact that we're the first Black African country to get independence. You know, anytime you have a political conversation with Ghanaians, they're usually the loudest, okay? We got independence first. We know everything about politics, okay? So upon independence, when we got our independence, many African countries, all they cared about was industrializing as fast as possible. One of the shiny sort of symbols of progress towards industrialization, stock exchange, okay? So here are countries with barely 5 functioning private companies, and yet they'll form a stock exchange. So all across Africa, you get all of these stock exchanges being formed. Nobody, no country wanted to have a commodity exchange. The United States had its Chicago Mercantile Exchange 1800s, okay? 100 and something years earlier. Africa, none, all right? Okay? And that was the bias in favor of industrialization against agriculture. So that's the state of affairs. Ethiopia was one of the first countries in sub-Saharan Africa, excluding South Africa, to have a commodity exchange maybe 12, 13 years ago. And so in Ghana, we decided, we had discovered from our apps, the farmers are disadvantaged when it comes to prices. So what if we have a centralized market, right? Okay? And so this is the part where, as I said, I went to the Minister of Trade, told him a lot about my economics. He said, young man, come with me. We'll go to cabinet. I gave the talk on cabinet and explained to them exactly as I'm explaining now. Let's have a commodity exchange. Let's find a way in which farmers on the farm gate can get a broker, right, representing them in the capital and do their trading for them. Those who want to buy commodities, in this case, we're focusing on maize, they too have their buy-side brokers, yeah? And so in the capital, the sell-side brokers, buy-side brokers are negotiating with each other. So this gives an advantage to those farmers in their villages who don't have access to prices, because now they have a representative in the capital who can trade on their behalf, okay? So again, going back to the earlier thing, I am on a mission not to complain about Africa ever again. People said the markets are a bad thing. Fix it, okay? So this is our attempt at fixing it. And so that's the commodity exchange. And so this is another Journal of Development Economics paper with Pellegrino, where we go through the theory of all of that, okay? You'll learn more about the commodity exchange. And in this picture is, I think it's 2018. So 2017 was when I went to Cabinet, had the conversation with them, told them everything about my theories. They said, yes, go ahead and form it. They told me, we give you 1 year to go and form the commodity exchange. They gave me several $1 million. And after the cabinet meeting, I was very distressed, went to the hotel room. We've got only a year to go. I'm calling up all my friends. I found a guy called Dr. Kadri Alpha. And I said, come to my hotel room right now. You are going to be the CEO of this thing called the Ghana Commodity Exchange. I twisted his arm. He agreed to do it, sent him to the finance minister. And 1 year later, Ghana has a commodity exchange. So it's one of my proudest moments. So this is a picture of the then president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, with the finance minister right behind him in sort of yellowish is Dr. Kadri Alpha. We sort of modeled this a little bit on the Ethiopian Commodities Exchange. And I like to tell this joke. It's not quite a joke, it's actually the truth. I'm a little bit height deprived, okay? I'm in the back there somewhere, and these big, tall, beefy security people for the president, they saw me and just yanked me out of the way, okay? I'm supposed to be in that picture, but that's what happened, okay? All right, so that's the formation of the Ghana Commodity Exchange, okay? All right, so then we formed the Ghana Commodity Exchange. What does any well-meaning economist do after you've had an innovation? You try and test it. You run an RCT. You see whether this thing you've just introduced had an impact. Sounds like a great research topic, great paper, all right? I was sure the GCX would be amazing. I was expecting my, ugly face to be on the national newspaper or something, okay? Ethiopia's case got a lot of press. So anyway, we attempt a randomized control trial. We get some of the villagers and we expose them to the commodity exchange. These are all parts of the process. You got to weigh it. They weren't weighing before. The thing on your right there is a moisture meter. The maize has to be 12% moisture content or less. So this is something we use to test it. It goes into a warehouse. This is the floor of the commodity exchange when we started in 2017. Those of you who work with commodity exchanges, the good old days a decade ago used to be a lot of fun, okay? You see these brokers in the pit and they're making these hand signals. And then all of a sudden the computer came, everything was online. And so all the excitement vanished, okay? Everybody's on their computer somewhere. But this is the commodity exchange when it first started. The middle picture are the brokers in the floor of the Ghana Commodity Exchange. This is the network of the commodity exchanges, the brokers, as I said. The buy side are the school feeding programs, flour mills. Farmers are on the sell side. Let me keep going. This is joint work, the RCT with Chris Udry, Lorenzo Casaburi, and Lauren Falcao-Belquist. You do your baseline, and I'm going to skim through all of this. I'm already out of time. You run a RCT, you randomize at the community level. 50 of them are going to be exposed to the commodity exchange. 50 of them are going to be controlled. And the hope is those you've exposed to the commodity exchange will have good profits, good revenue, etc., right? This was a failure, okay? Real failure. We got grant money. We started it. I was so happy. I have tenure. This should not have worried me so much, but I was freaked out, okay? You got this, feeling in the stomach. I'm a complete failure in life, okay? My RCT is not working. In what sense was this a failure? It was a failure when we were going around talking to people. Everybody told us that this is a great thing to do. But when it came to the actual day to deliver the maize, everybody vanished. They were lying to us, okay? All right. So failure. So the next thing we did was we created something called a nano commodity exchange. We thought that the problem was the farmers are in their villages. Many of them have never been to the regional capital in their lives. All the warehouses were in the regional capitals. So maybe that was the problem. So we created commodity exchanges based on the mobile phone, okay, in the communities themselves. We brought in traders from all over the country, and the farmers could locally access a local commodity exchange. We were sure that this was going to work. This is a commodity exchange in that beautiful building I showed you a while ago. We did it in there, okay? All right? So on the left are the farmers, on the right are the traders. Again, these are in our communities. These are the real people. This is the real thing that happened, okay? Here is maize. The guy on the right in blue, Jagnan Inlo. He's our best farmer. He called me 2 days ago. He wants another round of something I'll tell you about in a second, okay? So this is the commodity exchange. Nano commodity exchange is what we called it. Traders are inspecting the maize of the farmers. They negotiate. Another fun fact, West Africans love to negotiate. We have apps which match people. Okay, you make a bid, make an ask, you're matched. Take the match the computer has given you. Everybody should be happy. No, they want to go in a corner and negotiate again, just in case, okay? It's, anyway, that's West Africans for you, okay? All right, then you settle, then you go, okay? All right, so again, it worked, but again, volumes were low, okay? Another failure. Again, I'm beginning to feel depressed. I'm doing this with co-authors, and they're losing trust in me, okay? And maybe, Dean, you can ask Chris if he still loves me or he thinks I'm a complete, okay? It was very, very hard, okay? This is with Chris, okay? Another failure. So 2 failures in a row. What in heaven's sakes is going on, okay? I'm saying to myself, you guys are telling me that this is an important thing for you. As we're doing it, you're all telling us that this is great, but on the day when you're supposed to deliver, only a few of you do, okay? So we went in there, and for those of you who are doing research work in the field, here is a strong piece of advice. Every now and then, get rid of your enumerators. Go in the field alone, okay? When nobody is around. Give yourself a lot of time, okay? A lot of time. Because all of the subjects, the initial round, they're going to say anything they think you want to hear, okay? They just love the attention. But after a while, even they will get tired of smiling at you nonstop, and they will start telling you the truth. So we found out something very impressive, and it's the following. This is the way the agricultural system in a huge swath of the Guinea savanna, this is the way it works. At the end of the season, all of the farmers are broke. Broke. They have seeds that they're going to farm in, but they have no money to do the various parts of the agricultural exercise, okay? And so they all depend on traders to give them cash at the beginning of the season so that they can go through all of the different processes. The loan contract that these traders have has 2 parts. The first part is for any amount of money that the trader gives to the farmer, at the end of the season, a certain number of bags needs to be delivered, right? If you look at the implicit interest rate on that, it's of the order of 200%, okay? Which means that those people who are giving credit to these farmers are making out like bandits, okay? All right? Now, part number 2 is, in addition to the repayment for the loan itself, all of the rest of the farm, all of the output has to go through that trader. It's negotiated, but it has to go through the trader. This is something we found out only after we went in there and we're talking to the farmers. The farmers, okay? So it's something we learned after we ditched all of our enumerators, okay? All right, so we found out that credit is important. All of you remember the work of Joe Stiglitz, I think in the 80s, when he was talking about different equilibria, okay? And how, when you have imperfect information, you can have high interest rate equilibria. The banks can't destroy that equilibrium because the banks don't have the monitoring technology, all right? I learned that as a graduate student, but when I was going into the field and starting this, I completely forgot about it, okay? I only realized it after the fact, after 2 different failures, okay? But there it was, okay? You see the word Ashanti women. Am I still okay? Okay. All right. You see the line Ashanti women here, and I love it, okay? So here's a gender thing for you. Most of the farmers are men, okay? They're the ones who need cash. Most of the traders who are giving loans to the farmers are women, okay? The men are complaining that the women are exploiting them. Isn't that great? I just love it. Anyway, they call them the Ashanti women, even though not all the women are Ashanti. Ashanti is a tribe. I am Ashanti, okay? All right, so that's a little gender thing for you. So we now believe that credit is important. We've had 2 failures, and so I want to make sure that this is not another failure. So what we did is we got a grant, and that grant enabled me to mimic the work of a trader. So I got some of the farmers together, and I operated as a trader. I'll give money at the beginning of the season, and I'll watch them spend the money across time, okay? And so we were doing that. I just wanted to sort of like a learning exercise. And in a few minutes, I'll just tell you, so farmers need to clear their tractors, buy weedicide, thresh. This is taking out, and again, corn is the main crop I'm working on. Take the cob, the little peas around the maize off the cob. It's called threshing. And each of these steps requires money. We went in there and pumped in money at that stage, okay? Farmers store maize locally. These are the local storage facilities. And I was talking to the Minister of Agriculture. He came to the United Arab Emirates where I teach. I went to his hotel room, spent a few hours with him, explained to him what we were doing. And he says, yeah, here's a warehouse. Use it for your research. So I think I'm one of the, I don't know if there's another, but I'm the only economic theorist who has been operating a warehouse. Not bad, right? So this is my warehouse, okay? And so this is the tail end of this process, okay? We inject money at the beginning, pay all the different parts. At the very end, we get the maize, completed maize from the farmers. Then we sell it and use that to recoup the money at the very beginning, okay? All right. In the interest of time, let me just keep going on here. Let me tell you, let me stick with this credit process and tell you something else that we're doing, okay? And this is a little bit out of sequence, but I feel like I should do it there instead, okay? And so we also got a grant. I told you earlier on about the University Blockchain Research Initiative. So those of you who work on blockchain or know what blockchain is, it's a technology. It's decentralized, okay? So all of the information sits on computers all over the world. All decisions are made by a majority vote. But in particular, it's a way in which somebody could come up at the very beginning and say, I'm issuing a coin, which is just a statement, Bitcoin, okay? Here is a statement saying these number of coins are things which I'm starting the process off with, yes? Some people will get these coins, yeah, at the very initial stage. Again, you write on a computer that these people have these coins, yeah? A person who has a coin may get something physical from somebody else, right? And then 2 people, the guy who gave the physical should say, I am extracting some of this coin from this person. And then that person who has gotten this thing has to reduce the amount of coin that they have, right? So it's just essentially an accounting system, okay? So the blockchain and cryptocurrencies are exactly that, nothing else, okay? It's just an accounting system for tracking who's buying what, yeah? And if you think about what we're trying to do with our farmers, it's exactly that. At the very beginning, we pump in some money, yeah? They need to buy things from different people. And as they buy, for example, services for a tractor, the tractor guy needs to get some currency, and the farmer needs to reduce the currency that they have that we gave them at the very beginning, right? Okay? And so this is just tailor-made for us. So we actually introduced a coin. I was thinking of calling it the Nyarko coin, but maybe that would have been a bit too much, okay? So we call it the Volta coin, all right? And so a friend of mine calls it crypto in the bush, okay? So anyway, that's what we do on the crypto side for the credit project, okay? And now, let me go back. All I'll say about climate change is the following. So number one, in the areas that we're working with, soil quality has really been reduced. They've been felling all the trees. Climate is a big deal. There's this paper I like a lot. Nathan Nunn and others have written this paper where they look at the climate data from satellites, and they look at nomadic herdsmen. They have cattle, and because of the changing patterns of rainfall, they're coming south, further south than they used to, okay? That's his paper. The further south that they're coming to is exactly our study area, okay? So another high point, if you will, of my career is I was teaching at NYU Abu Dhabi, and I hold a lot of phones, okay? So I've got my Ghana phone, and it kept ringing while I was in class. It rang the first time, I ignored it. Second time, I ignored it. Third time, I said to the students, hey, let me pick it up. Jagnan Inlo, the guy I showed you wearing blue, he's calling me, okay? He's yelling at me. Why? The Fulani herdsmen that Nathan Nunn was talking about were at his farm, okay? He knows we operate a warehouse, and he's telling me, if you don't get this, our maize into the warehouse, we will not be able to pay back the crypto loan that you gave us, yeah? So he's screaming at me and telling me I'm a bad guy and you should get it right now and this and that and this and that. So I hung up afterwards. I said, I'll talk to my team. We did actually do it. But it also taught me something. If farmers are calling you, as opposed to you calling the farmers, you probably have done something right, okay? Being yelled at is actually a good thing in this case, okay? It just, these guys really want this service, okay? So anyway, that's my story about that. Rain. At NYU Abu Dhabi, we're part of, AI is a big thing right now. So through a Gates funded grant, a team of people are looking at using AI for weather forecasting, okay? So that the farmers can know when to plant, all right? Okay, so let me just, is this list here? Let me just end here. Land we've spoken about, markets we've spoken about, capital and using blockchain for that, warehouses we've spoken about, climate and the importance of climate change and doing something on AI around that, okay? So let me end here by saying here are the main things that people talk about when they're talking about agriculture in Africa. All of them are technology-based. A commodity exchange is nothing other than rules, regulations, maybe a few warehouses, and software. That's all it is, okay? The capital program we're doing is all blockchain technology, okay? So all of this is about technology. All of this is about things we have done. Thank you all for listening.
I was getting very intrigued by your way you do your page count. You say 43 slides, 116 out of 43. So that worried me a moment when you went past that. But perfect timing, all good. Look, we have time for questions. And clearly, this was a very broad talk and a lot of broad themes done. So it seems to suggest you can ask anything. Basically, anything you want to ask. And someone has to start, okay? Don't ask. Oh, very good. Otherwise, I would have volunteered someone. Please. Yeah. We'll collect a few. If there's others people interested, we'll take it on there. Yes, please. Maybe
So,
introduce yourself.
yeah,
briefly.
so sorry, my name is Fleur Wouterse. I'm a senior evaluation officer at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. I think I'm the only person of FAO here, which worries me a little bit. In any case, you talked a little bit about climate change, and you talked a lot about technology, but you didn't talk about technologies for adaptation to climate change. You talked about the threat of herds destroying crops, the need to bring the maize quickly to the warehouse. But what are you telling the farmers when the rains are not great? What decisions should they make? And how can AI, for example, help us with that? Thank you.
Very good. And there was there, I think Jeremy was over there. So see him over there. I'm happy to take one more if someone is interested. Okay. We'll then come to Stefano. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Foltz from University of Wisconsin. I want to ask you about it, I guess, in some ways, the theory behind the blockchain, in the sense that I don't, just seeing it from the outside, I don't see how blockchain solves the Stiglitz problem per se. And as a theorist, I'm hoping you can enlighten me on where it's actually much different than doing things through a banking system.
Okay. So I think we go down one more to Stefano. Is that okay? Three questions.
Yep.
And then I saw a hand there. We'll come later on to you there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Over here. This was fascinating. You talked about several technologies and institutions that you set up around these technologies. But I was wondering whether you could spend a couple of words talking about politics. These institutions don't enter into a political vacuum. Land is a very political issue, so is credits or warehouses for that matter. So where is politics in all of this? Thank you.
Very good. Well. Yeah.
Okay, so let's take first the question from FAO. Where are you?
There.
Oh, there you are. Okay, hidden there. So first of all, your sister, or is it brother organization, World Food Program, we've been working with them extensively. In some of the pictures there, the Africa Regional Director, Chris Nikwe, is actually in the picture. They've sent a number of delegations over to see what we are doing, okay? So we do love to work with FAO, WFP, and all of those organizations. Yes, and I say that also because there's something of a distinction between what FAO does and what WFP does. So in my crude analysis, think of FAO as being more of seeds, different kinds of seeds, etc., and WFP more on the things which are economics, if you will, okay? Delivery of food to distressed people, etc. I know it's probably wrong, but I just wanted to say that as an introduction to my answer to your question. And the answer is, I'm trying to do certain things. I can't do everything, all right? So one of the things I do not do are things like getting better seeds, okay? Climate. One of the things that our farmers really need to know, when will the rains fall, okay? Timing is huge, okay? If you get the timing wrong, if you put it in too early, it doesn't grow, the animals eat it. If you put it in too late, your water is logged and it doesn't grow. So getting that perfect timing is very important. That's what we're trying to do with Aim for Scale, okay? Get the weather forecast so they can do it perfectly, all right? So again, we're trying to do that. One of the groups that don't get a lot of credit in African countries are the Extension Service agents, Ministry of Food and Agriculture. They often learn from you, FAO, what to do, okay? So they have the body of knowledge there, all right? But how to implement it is also a big problem. AI can be helpful there. There's a group, they're doing something called Agri-LLMs. So all the information that FAO and the ministries have, can we put that in an LLM, right? And find a way to give that information to the farmers, okay? Because the body of knowledge, as far as I can tell, is there. You folks have done a great, great job. How do we deliver it? How do we implement it? That's the way I'm going, okay? Cool. So that was that question. Jeremy from Wisconsin, this was about the blockchain. So in one sense, you're right. all that blockchain does is to give us a process for recording who does what, okay? What we are doing that banks haven't been able to do, that this may be able to do, is the following. When you give credit to somebody, you're giving them cash, usually. The bank will give them local Ghanaian currency and say, hey, you've said through your business plan, you need, I don't know, 200,000 Ghana cedis for something. All the money goes to the farmer, and you're hoping the farmer throughout the cycle will spend on the things they said they're going to spend on. This farmer has the money in some form or the other, usually cash stuck inside the roof, the straw roofs. Then all of a sudden, one of their kids gets sick, right? Is about to die. You need money to take that kid to the hospital. And you're looking at that 200,000 Ghana cedis in the straw. What are you going to do? Right? Okay? They're just going to take it. Okay? You fall in love. And there's this woman you want to marry. And you got to spend some money to marry that woman. And you're looking at the 200,000 there. What are you going to do? Okay? So one of the things that the blockchain and the cryptocurrency does that banks are not currently doing is I can force that person to spend those things on precisely the things I want that person to spend it to, okay? So the only way in which they can get their tractor service is if they, on their app, deduct some of their Volta coin, gets transferred to the tractor guy says, oh, I've seen this on my phone, I'm going to this person to plow. That's the advantage of it, okay? Cool. Stefan, politics. So I've tried to be non-Ghanaian and not talk too much about politics. If there's anything I try very hard to do in all of my work is to stay out of politics. Politics in Ghana in particular is extremely messy, okay? Extremely messy. There are people who are very good at the politics, and maybe I should come to Stefan for help on that. I'm not good at that, okay? So what I do is I try and avoid politics. And one of the things I've learned is that there are a lot of honest people there, a lot of honest politicians. They want to do the right thing. And so long as you go there, you find the time to talk to them one-on-one. You know, we created Ghana Commodities Exchange. And to the best of my knowledge, it was free of politics, okay? If there was any politics, we started off with the Ministry of Trade. They loved the idea so much, went to Parliament with me, and then Ministry of Finance came in. And they wanted the thing. And it was just good to see the two ministries fighting over who's going to be running the Ghana Commodity Exchange. I don't know, am I being recorded here?
Well, you just streamed live.
The Ministry of Finance won, okay? That's just what happened, okay? So the answer to your question is politics is extremely important. I have chosen to stay away from it. I am not good at that, okay? I'm way too blunt. I say things as they are. I just don't have the skills that Stefan, for example, has, okay? But I think we've done some things, and I think that there is space for people who are just saying things as it is. And, you know, I just find that people respect me because, you know, I got into trouble with the local, now I'm going to get myself into, so the local political party came to me to say I haven't been contributing enough to the political party, and I'm a bad guy. I just stared them down. I said, okay, take me to jail then. What are you going to do? Okay? So that's what I've chosen to do. I think it's extremely important, but we've got experts like Stefan who can teach us how to do that. I'm no good at it.
I'm not sure what I should say now, but you have all the questions? That was the three, yeah? Yeah. Okay, let's start. Yeah, okay, so it starts there. I can't quite see. Oh, yes, there you are in the corner. Yeah.
Hi. So I am just interested in...
Can you introduce yourself quickly?
I'm Maliha from BIG, Brack Institute of Governance and Development in Dhaka. And I just wanted to understand kind of the rules under which the innovations that you discussed operated. First of all, I am wondering if the broker system that you introduced, do the brokers, they're people, and do they act as, you know, self-motivated people for their own gains, or somehow are their gains correlated to the gains or losses of the farmers or the traders? I just wanted to understand that. What do they have in it? And I was also wondering, because this is something that we see in Bangladesh, what was one problem that you identified was the credit relationship with the traders. I'm wondering, are there any traders that are forming, syndicates, and even in that, even in this brokerage system, are they kind of exploiting were they kind of exploiting the farmers, and maybe that's why it didn't work? So were there environments like that there? Yeah. So, and also, was there like a takeaway that these people at the brokerage centers, they are coming and saying that, yes, I promise this amount of grain to you, and then they're not delivering. So there is also a kind of a lack of contract enforcement. And are you thinking about doing anything about that?
Very
Sorry.
good. Okay. Yep. We can bring it to Augustine. Yeah, I can see it here. No, just to wait for the microphone.
I thought I had a booming voice. Anyway, thank you, Stefan, and thank you, Yao. Someone asked about the role of politics, and another person talked about specific rules. Let me ask a more general question. What is the role of governance? In particular, is it endogenous, exogenous, or immaterial? Thank you.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I'm Augustine Fosu from the University of Ghana.
Yes. There was one more on that side. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cecilia from Yale University. I was wondering, what do you think of the model of cooperatives? It seemed from the example you had that farmers are operating by themselves, but I've seen a lot of cooperatives as well doing the trade. So I was wondering, how does it work, and if you've tried working with cooperatives as well? Thank you.
So the first question from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Thank you for all those questions. I think you're asking essentially detailed questions on the running of the commodity exchange itself. As regards brokers and whether they are self-motivated. So there are different rules of how the brokers work. Sometimes they're given a percentage of the value. Sometimes it's a fixed commission per transaction, okay? One of the things in the rule book of the commodity exchange is to make sure that there's no exploitation. So there are lots of caps on how much money you can make, okay? So that goes into the what is called the rule book, the rules and regulations as to how brokers work. And I can assure you that if anything, the brokers are not getting enough, okay? It's, everybody is concerned about the smallholder farmer. And so the rules are designed that way, all right? You mentioned syndicates of traders. So you could be asking two types of traders. They're the traders from the commodity exchange itself. So there's a CBAG, the Commodity Buyers Association of Ghana, okay? So they formed themselves into a cooperative, if you will, but those are the people who are already on the Ghana Commodity Exchange, okay? So they have their group. You could instead be asking about traders in the villages, what I call the Ashanti women. They tend to work alone, okay? They do not work in groups. And the reason is obvious. Their value added is knowing who the good risks are versus the bad risks. So the last thing they want to do is to pair up with somebody and reveal their private information, okay? So they know, for example, there's this one woman who is a trader. She'll tell me, that particular village, the people there are very good. But that village, they are from a different tribe in the north. They migrated down, and anytime you give them money, they're going to run away with it and give you problems, okay? That's inside information, and that's what justifies her 200% return, okay? So that's the answer to that. Non-delivery of contract enforcement. What you're talking about there are futures or forward contracts. These are things where you give the farmer money in advance, and later on, in return for that money, they need to give you something, okay? The Ghana Commodity Exchange at this particular time is all a spot contracts. And so the maize has to go to the warehouse first. A warehouse receipt is given, and then trading is actually trading on the warehouse receipt. So against the warehouse receipt is maize that's already in the warehouse. So there's no issue of default, okay? So that's that question. Augustine, who is a great friend and colleague and an expert in politics and the role of governance. And I just feel like, Augustine, you should be telling me the answers there. I know so little about this. And as I said before, I stay away from politics. Okay, it's just messy, and I've been privileged enough to be able to work with all governments. For your sake, with the Rawlings administration, with Mahama's first administration, with Akufo-Addo, with ministers in each one, and so far they've all been nice. Okay, as regards politics, governance, dynamics, exogenous, endogenous, Augustine, sorry, I'm going to leave that to you. Okay. And then from Yale, where are you? Oh, in the back there. So you asked me about cooperatives. Very, very good question. Very important question. Sometimes cooperatives are very successful. Sometimes they're complete failures. I used to work in the Volta region of Ghana, and the Volta region, apparently, cooperatives are very good. So there are two responses for why I don't work with cooperatives. Response number one is that many cooperatives, if you really dig deep into it, they only exist because some aid agency came in and decided, you got to form a cooperative so I can use the cooperative to give you money. The minute the aid agency leaves, the cooperative dies. Okay? So that's the first thing. All right? Second thing is, in the area that I work in, it's the Ashanti region. And very early on, people told me Ashantis don't like cooperatives. They want to do things by themselves, okay? And so they just instinctively against cooperatives, unless an NGO is coming, giving them money and saying, for the money, get a cooperative. Otherwise, they're not doing it. There are some new cooperatives which are being started around religious groups. So the church in Ghana in particular is very, very strong. I mean, there are people who are writing about Ghana is now a theocratic state, okay? The power of the church is enormous. And so some church groups have begun to form agricultural cooperatives, okay? But I don't work with cooperatives, okay? Yeah.
Right. Just looking at the room here. Yeah, we'll have that. And I'm going to take my privilege to ask you a question as well. So we have one. Okay, we have, we'll come to you as well. The Sarah Bigi. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm Sarah Bidirekutanarivu, and I'm a senior research fellow in environmental socioeconomics from Madagascar. I'm based in Madagascar. So your talk suggests that the low uptake of agricultural adoption is closely tied to the credit constraints and also like farmers' indebtedness to the traders. So in Madagascar, we try to reduce these credit constraints by implementing a small RCT of cash injection into village savings groups. And yeah, sadly, we also found that no, I think this is not that this doesn't exactly align with your findings, but we found that the members of the village savings groups, instead of using the credit in climate smart agriculture, they increase the borrowing for like off-farm investments, like activities, self-employment. So my question is, like, I'd be really curious to hear your views on how important broader structural transformation and encouragement of farm livelihoods, like livelihood diversification, is in growth strategy. I just forgot to mention that one of the key reasons people didn't use the credit in the improved farming technology is because of the very low returns. So the upfront costs are too high, but then the returns are both like uncertain and delayed. So they still use the credit in agriculture, but more like in the conventional agriculture, not in the improved farming. Thank you.
Right. I think we had one here. Did I see another hand somewhere? Ah, yes. Oh, there's more hands coming there. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Isaac Osemensa. I work with the Bank of Ghana. Growing up in Kumasi, I can really relate with the story Prof is talking about. It's a great initiative. Looking at the commodity exchange, I can see we have maize, we have other limited products. late 2025 and early 2026, we have rice that is going bad from the farm gates, and that has been a big challenge. So I see opportunity in the commodity exchange, how we can extend it to other products and make farmers benefit from it. Thank you.
Hi, I will also stand. I shared the height deprivation with you. I'm Munshi Sulaiman. I'm with Brack University. I'm just curious, the warehouse that you're running, so how much loss are you making and how much profit the farmers are making out of your whole credit and all the other supports?
Very good. And I'm behind you. We can do the fourth one there.
You mentioned, oh, I'm Alex from the LSE. I'm a grad student there. You mentioned in the beginning the importance for development economists to work more in economic theory. What do you think are some of the most important areas of economic theory that we should be thinking about developing in our work? Thank you.
Okay. I'll let you answer these and then I have a few more questions for you.
So credit and indebtedness, cash injection into village savings. So this is Madagascar, CEDA, right? Perfect. There you are. I think it's good research you're doing. Very important. You mentioned borrowing for off-farm investments. And so one of the things I didn't mention, so remember I was telling you about the traders giving credit to the farmers. And what I forgot to mention is another part of that loan contract is a bit of insurance, meaning if the farmer eventually has, for example, a death in the family and they need to have a funeral, okay? And those of you who are not from West Africa, funerals are a big deal among West Africans, okay? It's like a big party. If somebody dies, all of your family will show up. When we were younger, I like to tell this story. If you're looking for a date, go to a funeral, okay? That's why you find your match, okay? So funerals are a big deal in West Africa. And so if somebody passes away in your household, you need to find the money for your funeral, at least the upfront cost. There are funeral donations which will, give you the money back. But you need to find that. So the loan contract also specifies that if you need some help, you can go to the trader, and the trader will give you some additional money. And for that additional money, you need to repay later on additional maize. Okay, so that's part of the loan contract. And I think you were talking about that when you said off-farm investments. Okay, so that's part of the contract here as well. And if what we are doing, we're talking to some banks now, this whole crypto process, it's a whole process. Banks need to be ready for that as well. Okay, to give additional credit when these emergencies happen. So that's my response to you there. Isaac, thank you for the remarks. And if I may share with you, Bank of Ghana has this beautiful building in Accra. And when I was in high school and the university, the dream was to work at the Bank of Ghana, okay? It was like, maybe one day I will eventually make it there, okay? So bless you for going there. And you're right, a lot of rice goes wasted. And that's the point we're trying to make here, okay? You saw the pictures of the land. Ghana should not be a place that imports as much rice as it does. It makes no sense at all. None, okay? The land is there, the technology, FAO, we know how to do it. What's missing? I would say it's just getting our structures, the markets, the technology, the credit, okay? All right, and then Brack University, losses and profits. Running a warehouse is difficult business. The farmers do not like paying for warehouse services, okay? And so if you're charging directly a warehouse fee, what they'll do is to just store it on their farms, okay? And so what you need to do is to somehow or the other bill the trader, okay? The trader who's gonna buy it, get a little cut from that trader, okay? For being able to deliver from your warehouse, all right? So I think that was a question about profits and losses of warehouse. It's a tricky business, okay? As soon as we say we're gonna charge money to the farmer, they're just gonna find a way to avoid that fee. The margins on maize are very, very low, okay? Very, very low margins, all right? And the prices also fluctuate a lot, I think that's it for this round.
And the theory? What you should work on?
All right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot that. Yeah. Maybe
We'll
I'll
leave it for a moment.
maybe this is Alex from LSC. My apologies. Okay. Maybe I'm too scared to answer that question. Okay. It's sort of like wild speculation. Basically, I think economic theory is very important. Those of you who are working on, for example, RCTs, that's one area I think, there are extensions in different areas on that, but I'd say a lot of thought needs to be going there, okay? So you've run an RCT. What does it mean? Is it a very, very small exercise or is it a big exercise? Does it extend external validity, okay? What exactly are you trying to say, all right? So if you ask me where right now, I would say somebody should invest in a theory for development people. After you've done your RCT, slow down and think a little bit. What exactly does it mean? What have you really proven, right? I think there's a lot of scope there. It's a great tool. It teaches us a lot, but there's also a lot of criticism, okay, on some of those things. And I know a lot of you are doing RCT, so if you ask me, that's an easy win for many people here, okay?
Good. So I look around and I'm happy to take, okay, there's one at the very back there. I'm happy to take one more question beyond that one. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll take them all. Okay, I'll take all the questions now. Oh, there's one more coming here. Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Francis. I'm from the University of Bonn. So my question is, how is your crypto project different from contract farming arrangements that provide not only cash to farmers, but inputs, for example, pesticides and improved seeds? So with this kind of contract farming arrangements, farmers don't have the cash that they can spend on other items, but they have these inputs that they can directly use on their farms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello, thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. My name is Edwin Atichubi from the University of Glasgow. My question is really in relation to profit that the farmers make. At least I can see from experience. My father has been a farmer right from childhood, and I've helped my father throughout, and I have a lot of experience in regards to how expensive is it to run a farm as a business. And in Ghana, for instance, the cost of inputs are very high, and I would say some of the inputs that from experience we do buy, they are not really effective. I want to know from your intervention, the farmers that you worked with, what was it like in terms of profit compared to a normal case where you have farmers who don't experience your intervention?
Right, I'm going to ask a question. You very skillfully tried to avoid saying I don't do politics, but it's an interesting thing. But you work on commodity exchanges and you start your talk also saying, oh, we go back to Ethiopia, the commodity exchange, and that model has been spreading. But of course, the commodity exchange project in Ethiopia became incredibly political. And it's a bit linked to, we can't introduce anything into a vacuum. And something comes in there, there's existing trading relationships in a market. This is not the technology that comes in a vacuum. So there's all the kind of relationships, and probably was in Ghana as well. And so in the Ethiopian case, they introduced it in grain trading and basically zero uptake. Nothing happened. And more or less bankrupted almost overnight. All that investment and nothing was happening. And so the government had to step in to actually force coffee and sesame to go through the commodity exchange. And basically all these big numbers, 2 million farmers connected, is all forced connectivity and destroying existing market relationships, maybe for the better, maybe not. So, tell me, how is the Ghana experience different in terms of where you step in than, for example, the Ethiopian experience, where, they went around the world promoting it, selling it, that it was this amazing success, international organizations stepped in. But that was a tricky one, it's a tricky introduction of a market economy in or something there as well. So, you clearly stepped into something very political, and and you're now the big proponent of it. But tell me more. That's the three questions.
So let's try it. From Bonn, crypto inputs and pesticides, and how is this different from contract farming? So this is a question we get a lot. So for all of you, contract farming, there's some companies, usually they're NGOs, give inputs at the very beginning and watch the farmers across time. So that's what it is. Most of the literature finds out that these usually are expensive, cost a lot of money to operate, and the general feel we get from the literature is that they're not quite working, okay? There are debates, some of them they will say it will work. Almost all of them are funded through external donors, okay? It could be a big company, but sometimes the big company itself is getting money from the World Bank, USAID to make it work. So one of the big differences in our case is we're looking for something which is internal, free market, okay? It's not one company, but it's the entire market. So it's a slightly different model, all right? So it's a model where I'm not contracting with any one company to do anything. They're the tractor services, local tractor services. They're the vendors who give we decide, etc. There are several of them, okay? The farmers can go and do their own stuff. In other words, we're mimicking the way the rest of the world works. We're not creating something special for the farmers. So that's the big difference there, okay? So that's my answer to that. From Glasgow, profits, farming inputs, not effective. Some of these farmers are on the margin sometimes, okay? The amounts of money could be relatively small. However, we've seen one of the metrics we use for success. We start out with some farmers, we give them credit. Initially, they have straw roofs, and then all of a sudden, they'll come to me and say, hey, they call me professor, hey, prof, because of your intervention, this season we made enough profit, and look at my roof now. It's corrugated metal, okay? Or look at my hut. All 4 walls used to be mud. 3 of them are now cement. Thank you. I go to the community sometimes and I'm driving there and I'll get a goat, okay? A little goat as a gift from these farmers. So there are profits. It is working. We haven't systematically measured it, but it is working, okay? Then, Stefan, I think that's the third one. So this is about Ethiopia. Yes, we did watch and learn from the Ethiopian experience. Yes, Ethiopia started off with grains and very quickly had to go into coffee, okay? The big major cash crop. Yes, politics was involved. Also, yes, I don't want to deal with politics, okay? I'm going to say it again. I'm not skilled at politics. I stay away. One of the first things we did with the Ghana Commodities Exchange, I just said, I am not going in Ghana into cocoa, okay? Cocoa is the equivalent of coffee. Huge political environment, okay? Everything about cocoa in Ghana is politics. Tons and tons of politics. I am no good at politics. I stay away from cocoa. So the Ghana Commodity Exchange, the first difference is we did not have cocoa in there. We don't want to have cocoa in there. We're going to stay away from cocoa. Our goal was to succeed where the Ethiopian Commodities Exchange failed, in grains. I think that there's an opportunity for grains. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to make that work, okay? So first and foremost, that's what we did. Second difference is in the case of Ethiopia, they had a mandated system. All coffee and earlier on, all maize had to go through the commodity exchange, okay? It was, how shall I put this nicely? Ethiopia had a very strong leader called Meles Zenawi, okay? Who could essentially say, you guys are gonna do this tomorrow, whether you like it or not. Ghana has a very dirty, vibrant, social media infused democracy, okay? You can't get away with anything in that country, okay? And so the mandated system simply would not work in Ghana. It wouldn't work. So we didn't even try, okay? And so if you have a good system, it should work on its own. You shouldn't need the government to force people to trade on something. If it's good, they're going to do it on their own. So we went there to say, again, we're going to try for a system which does not depend on the government. If we're successful and people can go in the commodities exchange without a government mandate, hallelujah. And in addition, it means I don't have to worry about politics, at least not right now. So that's my answer to that.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to close. And I just want to do this. I'm sorry, we don't have time for further question. I just want to quickly, and you'll see where I'm going with that at the moment. So every year, in preparing this conference, the people we fund, the 40 scholars or so that we fund from Africa, we are in another university in Africa. We were in Ghana before. We were last year in Addis Ababa. The year before, we were in Kampala. And we do a pre-conference and papers get presented like here, we give feedback and so on. So it's their conference to do it. A bunch of journalists turned up from the university and the university had the press officer said. And the first question I asked, oh, you have a conference here. What will be the policy implications? And I said, none whatsoever. Absolutely. In fact, I hope there are none whatsoever of this entire conference here. And they were very puzzled, and the journalists went away. In the afternoon, we had many more journalists going. You said something very strange. Are you just wasting money? And I think I'm very glad, Yao, that you started to talk to actually appeal, whether it's for theory of good empirical work, for the right of African scholars in Africa to do research, to do good research. There is a lot of time wasted and terrible research being done because often all the funding says it must be relevant for policy. No, just as people with my background have the right to do, if I feel like writing a theoretical model, I can't do it as well as you do, to do an empirical paper when I feel like it, that has no big bearing on direct policy implications. I'm very glad you made an appeal that scholars working on Africa, especially in Africa, should be able to do research just because they want to do good research and not necessarily have to be with immediate policy implications. Of course, it's helpful at times that we learn from the research for the policy, maybe even to understand the politics a bit better. But just this whole right. And I want to thank you especially for that, because that's what the center has been trying to do, for the right for people to do good research, quality research, whether it has policy implications or not. And I thank you for that, for coming here and talking the way you did. Thank you very much, Yao.